Ready to dive into the mind of Henri Bergson.
Let's do it.
His work, Creative Evolution, is pretty groundbreaking stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
Complex ideas about life, evolution, and consciousness. But
We'll break it down.
by the end of this, you'll get why Bergson's ideas really shook up the philosophy world.
Definitely.
So what makes Bergson so fascinating?
I think it's that he challenged the big scientific ideas of his time.
Oh yeah, like what?
Well, back then it was all about this debate between mechanism.
Mechanism.
Yeah, the idea that everything is just atoms bouncing around.
Oh, okay.
And finalism, which said that everything unfolds according to some preset plan.
Like a blueprint.
Exactly, and Bergson said nope to both.
So no predictable atoms and no cosmic puppet master pulling the strings.
Right. He saw life as this incredible, unpredictable, constantly creative surge.
It's not about a fixed endpoint or just random events.
Nope, it's this continuous unfolding, always creating something new.
I love that analogy he uses, the fireworks display.
It's perfect, right? You can analyze the individual sparks, the chemicals, the mechanics of how it explodes.
Right, the science of it.
But you'd miss the magic of the overall pattern.
The whole picture.
Yeah, the way all those forces interact to make something new and amazing.
Okay, I get that. But how does this creative surge actually work? I know Bergson talks about duration, and I have a feeling that's where things get really interesting.
You're right on the money there. Duration is key. Think about it this way. We usually view time as this straight line, tick-tock, tick-tock,
That's a clock.
exactly like a clock. But Bergson argued that the way we experience time is way more fluid and interconnected.
It's not just points on a timeline.
It's the flow.
That's what he called duration.
Yes, duration, lived time.
So instead of looking at still photos,
You got to see the whole movie.
you're trying to understand a river by only looking at photos.
Right, you might see the water, the rocks, the scenery,
But you're missing the most important thing.
the flow, the current, the life of the river.
That's what our intellect tries to do with time.
It freezes it, tries to make it static.
And we miss the dynamic essence of duration.
We miss the flow.
And that's where we go wrong with understanding life. We get stuck in snapshots.
In a way, yes. Bergson said humans have two main ways of knowing: intellect and intuition.
Two different approaches.
Intellect is great for analyzing the material world, breaking things down into parts.
Categorizing, measuring, all that.
Exactly. Think of a sculptor meticulously chiseling away at a block of stone, creating a specific form.
Okay, so intellect is like a sculptor.
What would intuition be then?
Well, if intellect is all about structure and analysis,
Intuition must be more about feeling and flow, right?
like a dancer,
Yes. A dancer, moving freely with the music.
responding to the rhythm, the energy of the moment.
Intuition tunes us into the dynamism of life that our intellect often misses.
The intellect misses because it's focused on those static forms.
He wants to define and categorize.
So we need both
We need the sculptor and the dancer.
to fully understand life.
Exactly. But how does this all connect to the ideas of mechanism and finalism?
That's a great question.
Bergson saw both of those as limited perspectives.
Limited how?
They try to force life into these pre-existing boxes.
Like it has to be this or that.
Right. If everything is predetermined or random,
Then there's no room for real novelty, for surprises.
you got it. There's no room for that spark that drives evolution forward.
Bergson's saying life is too wild, too free to be pinned down like that.
Like jazz.
Exactly. Life is like jazz. Think about how jazz musicians improvise,
They're working within a structure,
but they're also creating something new in the moment.
responding to each other, the audience, their own inspiration.
It's so much more exciting than picturing creatures just slowly adapting over millions of years.
It's dynamic,
It's like life is constantly pushing the boundaries, coming up with new riffs and melodies.
making things up as it goes along.
Exactly. And that spontaneity.
That unpredictable creative energy.
That's what Bergson saw as the heart of life.
The essence of it all.
But how do we tap into that? Intuition sounds a little mystical.
I see what you mean.
Like, how do we move from just analyzing things with our intellect to actually feeling that flow of life?
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
For Bergson, intuition wasn't some mystical mumbo-jumbo.
So it's not about crystals and incense.
No, it's a way of directly experiencing the inner pulse of life, that vital force that drives creative evolution,
We can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and the universe.
by cultivating our intuition,
So it's less about thinking and more about feeling.
immersing ourselves in the experience of life itself.
Like how an artist captures the essence of something,
Not just copying the physical form.
but conveying a deeper truth about its being.
You're exactly right. And this leads us to one of Bergson's most radical ideas.
What's that?
Our minds and the material world have co-evolved.
They've shaped each other over time.
It's not just our minds trying to understand a world that's already there.
The world itself has influenced how our minds work.
It's a two-way street.
So our need to act on the world has actually shaped how we see it.
And the structure of the world has shaped how our minds develop.
That's wild. He called it the cinematographical mechanism of thought.
A brilliant phrase.
Definitely needs some unpacking, though. What does he mean by cinematographical?
He's talking about how our minds tend to view reality like a series of still frames.
Oh, like film strip.
Yeah, instead of seeing the continuous flow.
So we're not experiencing the smooth, dynamic river of time.
We're stuck looking at separate pictures thinking that's the whole story.
Like watching a movie, but only seeing the individual frame.
You'd miss the narrative, the emotions, the flow of the story.
So our intellect does the same thing with reality.
It freezes reality into these isolated moments.
We miss the living, breathing reality of becoming.
We miss the flow.
So our minds are kind of tricking us into seeing a fragmented version of reality.
And that's why we have trouble grasping duration and creative evolution.
It makes sense now. We're working with the wrong tools.
We need to start challenging our usual ways of thinking.
And start cultivating our intuition.
If we want to get closer to the truth of how life really works.
So we're trying to break free from this cinematographical trap.
Right.
But are we saying we should just chuck logic and intellect completely?
No, not at all. Intellect is super valuable.
It's a powerful tool.
Especially for understanding the material world.
For building things.
Technologies, making our lives easier.
But it has its limits.
Like any tool.
It can only do so much.
Intellect is great for analyzing, breaking things down.
But it misses that bigger picture, that flow of duration.
That's where intuition comes in.
To fill the gaps.
Not to replace intellect, but to work with it.
Okay.
Intuition is about experiencing that making of reality.
The vital force.
That drives evolution forward.
That creative impulse.
Yeah, exactly. But how do we actually do that?
How do we actually cultivate intuition? It still feels a bit elusive, you know?
It's about using the right tool for the job.
Okay, I like that.
You wouldn't use a hammer to paint a picture.
Okay.
Or a paintbrush to build a house.
Right. Each tool has a purpose.
Similarly, we can't grasp the dynamism of life only using intellect.
We have to engage other ways of knowing.
Open ourselves to the world differently.
So it's a shift in focus.
Absolutely. A shift in how we engage with the world.
What would that look like in our everyday lives? Can you give me an example?
Sure. Think about watching a sunset.
Okay.
You could analyze the physics of the light, the colors.
How the earth rotates.
But there's also the direct experience of the sunset.
How the colors blend. The awe you feel.
That's where intuition comes in.
We're not just thinking about it, we're feeling it.
We're present in the moment.
Experiencing it directly.
Exactly. And here's where Bergson's ideas start to get really practical.
How so?
Well, if life is this constant creative surge,
always pushing beyond those preset forms,
then maybe we need to rethink our obsession with fixed goals.
like having a rigid plan for our lives.
Exactly. Maybe we should be more open to the journey itself.
To those unexpected detours and opportunities.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And this isn't just about personal growth.
It's about how we approach everything.
Our relationships, our work, our understanding of the world.
Our whole perspective changes.
That's a fundamental shift.
You know, this makes me think about Bergson's idea about that line between living and non-living.
It's not so clear-cut.
He wasn't saying rocks are conscious, was he?
No, not exactly. But he suggested that same vital impulse that drives evolution.
Could be at work in the inorganic world too. Just differently, at a slower pace.
Right, so instead of life emerging from matter at some point,
maybe matter is like a slowed down version of life.
Everything participating in this creative process, just at different speeds.
That's a very Bergsonian way of looking at it.
He saw the universe as this continuum.
Different levels of intensity and creativity, all connected, always evolving.
It's a beautiful vision.
It's mind-blowing. But if we're taking this seriously,
we have to rethink some basic assumptions
about how we see the world and ourselves.
One of the biggest assumptions Bergson challenged was this idea of linear time.
That straight line from past to present to future.
That's the one.
So if time isn't a straight line, then what is it?
He saw it as more like this constantly expanding wave,
A wave.
where the past is still present in the present, shaping the future.
So the past doesn't disappear, it accumulates.
It continues to resonate within this present moment.
So every creation carries echoes of everything that came before.
That's a great way to put it.
Like a jazz musician's improvisations are shaped by all the music they've ever heard.
Exactly. And it's not just individuals, but the whole of evolution.
Each new development carries within it traces of its entire evolutionary history.
It's all connected.
This makes me think about my own life.
How so?
My choices today are influenced by my past experiences.
Of course.
And those choices will shape my future. It's all interconnected.
Like a tapestry that's constantly being woven.
This interconnectedness,
It goes beyond our individual lives.
it encompasses the whole universe.
And for Bergson, intuition is the key.
It allows us to connect to this deeper reality.
To experience that interconnectedness of everything, to feel that vital impulse that flows through it all.
It's such a powerful image.
It really is.
But it also raises a big question.
What's that?
If we're all part of this grand interconnected flow,
Of creative evolution.
where do we fit in as individuals? What does it all mean for how we live our lives?
Now, that's the ultimate question, isn't it? That's the big question everyone wants to know.
Yeah, if we're all part of this flow, where do we fit in? How should we actually live our lives?
And I think Bergson would say it calls for a shift in focus.
Away from what?
From always striving for those fixed goals
So what then?
to embracing the creative process itself, being open to novelty, to surprise.
To the unexpected turns life throws at us.
Exactly. It's not about getting to some specific endpoint.
It's about the journey.
It's about how we participate in that journey.
I like that. It's about the how, not just the what.
And it's not just about our personal life,
This applies to everything.
to everything. Our work, relationships, our understanding of the world.
It's a whole new way of seeing things.
It is. It's a shift in perspective.
Makes me think of Bergson's idea of freedom.
Freedom to become.
He didn't see it as just doing whatever we want, did he?
No, true freedom for Bergson was more about aligning ourselves with that creative flow of duration.
Tapping into that vital impulse, letting it express itself.
Through our actions, our thoughts, our very being.
So it's almost like a surrender,
A surrender to something larger than ourselves.
but a surrender that actually empowers us.
To become more fully who we're meant to be.
That's beautiful.
It's not about losing ourselves.
It's about discovering a deeper level of self.
A self that's connected to that universal creative energy.
This is starting to click for me now.
It's all coming together.
Bergson isn't just giving us a theory of evolution. He's offering a whole new way to understand our place in the universe.
Our relationship to time, to each other, to life itself.
And it feels so relevant today.
Especially in a world obsessed with speed and efficiency and control.
We've lost touch with that flow.
Bergson reminds us of the power of intuition, of creativity, of embracing the unpredictable.
He wants us to be more than just passive observers.
He's calling us to actively participate in the creation of life.
That's a pretty powerful challenge.
It's daunting, but it's also incredibly liberating.
It is both, you're right.
Bergson doesn't give us easy answers.
He gives us something better.
He invites us on a journey of exploration and discovery,
A dance with the unknown.
where the greatest reward is the journey itself.
This deep dive has given me so much to think about.
And to feel, to explore further.
It's been eye-opening, to say the least.
Remember, the goal isn't to master Bergson's ideas.
It's to let them spark our own creativity.
To see the world with fresh eyes, with a sense of wonder and possibility.
If life really is that creative surge, always pushing beyond those predetermined forms,
The question is, where will you choose to ride that wave?
what will you bring to that grand evolutionary dance?
That's for you to discover.
This deep dive has hopefully been a good first step in that journey.